voluntarily, and I will also point out are the only platform that is doing so at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Owen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great to hear the other. I'll give you a chance. I hear you want to make a response with all the time you need. Don't worry. So I want to hear from the other witnesses in opposition, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Robert Callahan with the Internet Association. Here in opposition, we represent major internet companies across the country, including sharing economy companies. We are opposed to the bill. We've heard it referred to numerous times today as a powerful tool for local government. We do not disagree that this would be an incredibly powerful tool. The problem is that we think it's unnecessary and it's not a right way to enforce those local laws. Our major concerns are not home sharing company specific. They're even much broader for all internet companies, and it's the two precedential issues that we've been talking about today. The privacy concern, and then followed second by turning internet companies into enforcement arms of local government to enforce those laws. First, on the privacy concern, the bill would require that we hand over the information on a quarterly basis to every city and county in the state of California, and only if they pass an ordinance to opt out of it, we would have to give it to them on an ongoing basis. Now, it's the three pieces of information we've talked about, but giving a local government an address is, you might as well be giving them name, et cetera, everything else. So just because the law references address, it is certainly getting to the person's name, and so the local governments know the individuals that are doing home sharing in the city. So that is a precedential concern for us for a number of reasons, but most importantly, it is for an undefined purpose. It is ongoing, it is quarterly, and it's for any enforcement whatever, including TOTs, including planning and zoning laws, et cetera. This is a negative precedent for us. We would be turning over that information, again, outside of a context of showing of cause for folks to be looking for potential violations of local laws. That's a very concerning precedent for us. And I'm a bit perplexed by the comparison to the fact that citizens turn over personally identifiable information to governments in other contexts, whether it be taxes or otherwise, as if that is a justification for local law enforcement to be able to go to any internet company and ask for that same information, as if that offers them the right to do so because the citizen had passed it over in another context. That would be completely, we think, inappropriate. So again, a powerful tool, no question, inappropriate, however. Second, we heard a little bit earlier about privacy as it relates in the consumer context with the company and behavioral advertising. Well, let's not conflate the issue of tailored ads to individuals in a non-personally identifiable context with the turning over of personally identifiable information to enforcement agencies of the government. These are entirely different issues, and we shouldn't conflate it in this discussion. The second piece that is of major concern to all internet companies as well is the idea that internet platforms would become quasi-enforcement arms for the local government. And it was just said that the bill puts the onus on local government for enforcement. I don't think I would agree with that. If under the vision of the bill, local governments would have access to every piece of information they would need in order to enforce. But then the bill says the local government would have to give a notice to the platform of the violation for the internet platform to pull down that listing. Well, if you're the local government and you know who in your jurisdiction is in violation of the law that you passed, why don't you go enforce that law? Why are we now under threat of civil penalty asking the internet platform to pull it off or else face massive penalties? So to us, it is frankly putting us in a position of enforcement, which we think is inappropriate. And finally, because internet companies are indeed rich sources of data, doesn't mean, as we're all grappling with this new sharing economy, with home sharing, we're grappling with all the local issues that it creates, doesn't mean because that's the easiest pathway to getting the information that would make enforcement the easiest, that it's the right thing to do. So for this and other reasons, we oppose the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. John Doherty, Vice President and General Counsel for TechNet. I will try and be brief because we share a lot of the same concerns that the Internet Association have already done. In many ways, this is a very familiar story, and our opposition stems from the traditional reaction that seems to be happening when a new service comes into a market, gains quick popularity, and leaves lawmakers and regulators and competitors scrambling to try and keep up. And what we generally try and encourage policymakers to do is almost the opposite of what this bill is doing. We think you need to look at the new product, look at the differences, and then craft a regulatory solution that makes sense for the new product instead of trying to jam it into a traditional regulatory model that doesn't respect the differences between the old industry and the new. On privacy, I will raise a new point, which is one that we're evaluating right now, but internet companies are international companies. Privacy is a worldwide concern. We are concerned that state laws that are requiring disclosure of consumer data could run afoul of international and national agreements, putting us at a disadvantage competitively across the country. And I would put a little bit more of a fine point on who is the enforcer of the local planning ordinance or not. The making, including criminal penalties for a user of a technology improperly using it would be a precedential and a very chilling and problematic way for our innovation economy. So with that, I will respectfully ask for your no vote.
Thank you, sir. And others in opposition? Any others? Sir, please. Yeah, you guys give him some space. You can sit here. Come on up. Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Chairman Hutzberger and other committee members, you've heard from police officers and real estate agents and apartment associations and unions, but you've not heard from a host. A Californian, a voter, a taxpayer who actually is involved in the sharing community.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Phil Wilson. I am president and CEO of a national not-for-profit based in Los Angeles. I've worked in the not-for-profit sector for over 29 years. I'm also an Airbnb host. When the economy crashed in 2008, my organization, like many nonprofit organizations, cut salaries. In my case, that meant a 10% cut and no pay increases for 5 years. The revenues from sharing my home with visitors helped me make ends meet during a very difficult time. It helps me make repairs and make improvements on my home. It helps me assist my aging parents, and it also helps me to respond to the all too frequent calls to help from my adult children. Hosts are ambassadors for our neighborhoods, our cities, and our state. Guests who stay with us get a real experience of what it's like to live in Los Angeles. They get to see neighborhoods from a point of view that hotels cannot provide. Our guests also contribute to the economy of local neighborhoods because people who stay with us patronize local, independent, and often family-owned restaurants, coffee shops, cafes, and grocery stores. There are a number of reasons why many Airbnb hosts oppose SB 593, but this morning I'd like to quickly share 2 of them with you. Number 1, the bill implies that we are tax cheats, unwilling to pay our taxes. This is not true. Even though the TOT laws are different in every city, and you often get different answers about what is required and how to pay, with Airbnb's help, we are figuring it out. I went down to the City of Los Angeles Office of Finance. I got a tax registration form. I also fill out my transit occupancy tax form. This is the form. There's 6 lines to it. I notify my guests that there's the transit occupancy tax is required. I pay my taxes every month. I fill out the form. I pay my taxes every month. So far this year, I've paid nearly $1,400 in TOT tax to the City of Los Angeles. Every month, we gather as Airbnb hosts to discuss issues that we are concerned about. Some of the things we do at these gatherings are to help other hosts figure out how to pay their transient occupancy tax. We actually do in-services to help other hosts do that. How to figure out zoning issues, how to bring added value to their neighborhoods, and how to be more engaged in civic affairs. Lastly, we feel that the transit occupancy tax and the zoning issues are local issues. I live, work, and worship in Los Angeles. I pay property taxes in Los Angeles. I vote for city council members in Los Angeles. This issue is between me and my local government. It is certainly not an issue I want relegated to some third-party vendor. Like the automobile at the beginning of the 20th century, the home share economy is here to stay. We need to be building pathways and thoroughfares to accommodate it and make it easier instead of putting up roadblocks and fighting to make sure that new technology doesn't scare the horses. Many Californians are still experiencing financial difficulties. Now is the time to help small businesses. Now is the time for you to help us. It is not the time to make it more difficult. I ask that you vote no on SB 593, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Others in opposition? Thank you. You want to go use a microphone here? Oh, here, I'm sorry. I apologize.
right.
I was looking over there. Yeah.
Not a problem. Samantha Corbin on behalf of the Electronic Frontier Foundation. I want to be clear, we're not in formal opposition to this bill. In fact, it's a bill that otherwise we would likely be supportive of if amended regarding the privacy issue itself. Electronic Frontier Foundation has been very active across the nation in conversations like this, specifically.
Have you reviewed the amendments that have been offered?
We have, and we actually feel that those amendments address remedy a problem that actually is not the problem itself. The precedential setting issue here is that effectively this bill would create a blank search warrant. It eliminates the cause that would be required to force compel from a private company all of this information. So eliminating the just public disclosure, as the gentleman from Airbnb said, actually doesn't remedy the privacy issue with this bill. So, and just really quickly, I would say the LA Times really describes what we mean when we say dangerous precedent. If it's good for Airbnb, and this is a quote, why not require automakers to have their cars generate reports for the police whenever they're driven faster than 70 miles per hour? Or require contractors to alert the city when they're asked to build an addition that's too large. So again, we have no philosophical problems with the author's intent here, just the mechanism as written is very problematic, and hopefully we can continue conversations there.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Who wants to come on up to the mic?
Hi, I'm Alexander Williams. I am a host at Airbnb. I am also an independent contractor, so I rely on a lot of creative sources of income to be able to pay my bills and to stay in my apartment. Therefore, I'm asking you to vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Judy Ciesla, and I'm a home share in San Jose. If it weren't for home sharing over the past 2 years, I would have lost my home. I've been out of work. In San Jose, we passed very progressive and thoughtful legislation. We now pay TOT, and I'd like to dispel the misconception that we don't want to pay the TOT. I'm happy to pay the TOT, and honestly, it doesn't come out of my pocket. So the mechanism that Airbnb has put in place in the city of San Jose, where it's automatically collected and remitted, it works great. This is a local issue. Let's keep it at a local level. Thank you, and I urge you to vote no on SB 593.
My name is Amy Gleason. I have been a host here with Airbnb since 2011. I oppose SB 593, and I just want to say that I, like the majority of Airbnb hosts, rent a room in my home. I follow a traditional home sharing model, and I believe this bill negatively impacts most of the hosts and the guests. If we want to resolve the legitimate commercial use issues that are being raised, I would like to ask that we look at those problems as a separate issue and work toward resolving those, not addressing or targeting those who have a home sharing model. It doesn't help, and it will deter guests from coming. Thank you.
Good day, thank you. My name is Katie. I'm an Airbnb host here in Sacramento. I'm also a stay-at-home mother to my 2-year-old son, Cooper. I'm grateful for so much, but I want to take this opportunity to thank Airbnb and other platforms. Because of this brilliant, safe, and effective home sharing platform, I'm now earning enough extra income to continue to stay at home with my baby boy so I don't miss a second of him growing up. Instead of shopping my resume, I'm shopping for local fruits and vegetables. Instead of waving goodbye to my son in the morning, I'm packing up for a day at the zoo. I love being a host. I'm proud of my listing and the amenities I offer my local community and to my native state. Please vote no on this bill. Thank you.
Just quickly, just give us the basics. We're running out of time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sophie, and I reside in San Jose, and I'm also a host. One of my concerns is one of privacy. I am a privacy officer, and when they collect the information, I don't know which other agencies within the city will be looking at that and what they will do with my information. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Quickly, please. You can come up closer. You don't have to wake all of there. Stand up here behind the mic so it doesn't.
Hi, I'm Vivian Terry. I'm a host here in Sacramento. I'm a responsible host, homeowner, and taxpayer. I use sharing platforms. They don't use me. Please vote no. Thank you.
Please.
My name is Deborah Ray. I'm a host here in Sacramento, and I urge to vote no on this bill as it is written. I think there's a lot of details that need to be, I don't think it's a fair bill as a blunt instrument.
Thank you.
It's written. Thank you.
Good morning, Daniel Sherrill. Please don't put a damper on tourism, because where will the revenue come then, right? Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Gentile, and I'm a resident of San Jose, like Jim Bell here, and I urge you to let local communities decide on how they should regulate home sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Bush, and I'm a senior citizen. I'm 74. The affordable housing I was losing is my own, but thanks to Airbnb, and I can rent out a room, I'm making it. So I urge you to vote against the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Maria Lobanovsky. I'm a host on 2 platforms. That's enabled me to meet costs of daily living, keeps me from selling my home. I pay all the TOT tax, and I believe that submitting 1099s is my responsibility, not a third-party vendor's. I urge you to vote no on 593.
I'm Jill Sherrill, and I'm a homeowner here in Sacramento and a host with Airbnb. Semi-retired, forced out of the workplace by the recession. I've been home sharing for a long time. I can just tell you last year my revenue, which was the best ever, was under $11,000. So there's a lot of regulation talk here for $11,000.
Thank you, ma'am.
Morning, my name is Mary Uretic. I live here in Sacramento County. I'm a retired educator and taxpayer. I urge you to vote no on 593.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Doug McDougall, Airbnb host, Roseville. 38 years a taxpayer, still working full-time, still paying my taxes. I don't want anything to do with any organization that is not willing to do that, and I don't believe that's what we represent. Our guests benefit from the amenities, the parks, the safety, the beautiful community of Roseville. We want to contribute. We want to keep that up. We understand you don't get something for nothing. This process is moving that way. We don't need more legislation heaped on it to deal with something that's already going in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Georgia Rose. I'm a host here in Sacramento, a responsible host who believes in compliance and paying their taxes. I think I'm making a contribution by providing, facilitating a place to stay and make an economic.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
My name is Adam Hurley, host in Elk Grove. Use it to offset some of the costs for my company and for rent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Opposed.
Nick Hurley, Elk Grove. I oppose this bill.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Melissa Rittenhouse, Elk Grove. I oppose this bill.
Thank you.
Hi, Rena Ray. I'm a host for Airbnb. I recently lost my job a few months ago, and if it wasn't for Airbnb, I would be homeless today. So I support home sharing, and please say.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Steve Walker. I'm a host here in Sacramento. I'm also a realtor. That business hasn't done as well, so this is helping pay for my house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen Grudy. I'm a host in Davis, California, and I oppose this bill. It's a solution in search of a problem, in my opinion.
Thank you so much.
Hi, John Elgart from Sacramento. We have a room in our own home. I oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Linda Elgart, host since 2010. I oppose 593.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Morgan Carvajal on behalf of the Consumer Watchdog. We have not yet reviewed the amendments that are being talked about today, but we do have an opposed unless amended position on the privacy issue, especially that where you can collect information without a warranty before an ordinance is adopted. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any others in opposed? Anybody else opposed? Any other questions from the committee members? Sir.
Mr. Chair, I just really enjoy watching secular trends, and we've certainly seen one here.
Sure have.
A lot of kids are not buying watches because they use their cell phones to tell time. But I don't see myself here trying to protect the watch industry. And I also see, vehicles are changing from gas to electric, and we've had that discussion a few times. We're seeing trends where we're seeing our revenues impacted, and certainly the recession has had a big impact on B&B. So, Mr. Chair, newspapers are suffering from secular trends as well. I just find that government is so great about reacting, maybe a little too late, and sometimes the wounds are self-inflicted. But I just am concerned again, Mr. Chair, about this patchwork of solutions when we need a good, broad view of what we're doing. I'm also concerned, Mr. Chair, of hindering or hurting a business in California with owners in California who theoretically pay income taxes, personal, and have employees that have taxes withheld, and should they sell stock, should have capital gains that are in this state. So I don't want to be a damper on other related businesses here in the state. I'm also concerned about what industries we require to have transaction fees or to be withholding. I know we do it for sales tax, but do we do it for broker-dealers that sell stock, or just a lot of other areas? I am also a tax collector formerly. We did tax audits of hotels in unincorporated areas, and I was responsible for that. So I'm sympathetic to the TOT issue. I also come from a county where tourism is big. We have Disneyland, and I haven't heard the word destabilizing before when it comes to having guests in your city or counties. So that's kind of interesting. But what's really amazing is the trends. You guys are getting your TOT and it's going up. So we're not talking about watching revenues go down. We're watching personal residences where compliance isn't maybe being done fully, but we have a company that's working in that direction. So those are the ideas I have, Mr. Chair, where I'm kind of having difficulty. I don't have any questions at this time, but certainly if Airbnb is issuing 1099s, they have Social Security numbers, and so there's a big privacy issue right there. So Mr. Chair, I'm very concerned at this point with this bill.
Senator Bell. Mike?
Couple questions. First, other internet platforms require information. Can you describe what kind of information other internet platforms require or receive and is given to government as opposed to what is being talked about here? Okay, I like to. We have to kind of lay that on the table so we understand.
Sure.
And maybe you could name a few of them too, please.
I'm by no means the.
I have one in my district. So.
Yes, I think you do, Senator.
I have quite a big one.
Yes.
Called eBay.
Yes, I think companies like eBay are when we use the term platform, we're talking about everyone from eBay and Facebook and Google and a number of other companies, and I'm certainly not here to speak on behalf of any of them, but we can all imagine the rich source of data that each of these companies hold and the significant concern that consumers and advocates and certainly companies like ours and platforms have about any attempt to compel that data be handed over to government without a subpoena or a valid warrant.
But can you tell me how they operate? The question was, how do they, listen to what I'm saying. The question was, how do they operate versus what's being proposed here?
Sure. Again,
so like an eBay platform.
Why don't you have a broader perspective?
Yeah, the internet organization might be able to.
Sure. Excuse me, Robert Callahan with the Internet Association. Trying to understand the question, but I think the answer is that we're aware of in no other context is personally identifiable information outside of, even in the online sales tax collection and remittance context. Are we required to give that information over to enforcement agencies of any kind without a defined purpose, without a defined showing, and in a sort of ongoing, recurring basis as this bill proposes?
About like eBay, for example, that's in your district, Senator Bell.
Well, I have
let's just use that as an example.
I would say more than just
selling
that,
stuff on eBay.
They're the big one.
Do they have to turn over information so that folks can determine whether they're conducting a business in their homes?
Right. So I think the answer is in the context of an eBay seller, they would be under the individual seller would be under the similar requirements as local jurisdictions in the context of home sharing has proposed, where you do have to give over your information if you're going to be compliant with the local law. You give over that information. I do not believe that eBay or Amazon or others are required to, on behalf of their customers and the internet users, turn that over on their behalf.
The next question is, the distinguishing feature between eBay and platforms and other kinds of platforms on the internet versus this one is we have this issue of property and land use, which is generally by the state laws and national laws, the purview of local government to regulate the use of those properties. So we have like this conflict between the business model on the internet and the property, and we're trying to somehow resolve that. Generally, in terms of property, I don't think that other types of uses of property, internet platforms get involved or are involved in that kind of enforcement mechanism. Is that correct? And now I had a question on this, on the Santa Monica, the new ordinance that you worked so hard on. Did they oppose your ordinance, for example? Was there opposition from the platform providers in your discussion, in your hearing this week?
We did not have any formal opposition from any of the platform providers, at least that I saw. I mean, it's possible some of my colleagues got emails that I did not see, but at our hearing, we had some host appear and explain, for example, that, they rented out a room in their house and that's what allowed them to stay in their house, which is why we carved out in our ordinance the home sharing exemption, which is why, of course, we think local control is important, because it addressed an issue that our residents raised.
So yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. If I could address.
I'm asking these this is kind of.
Sure, and to be respectful of time, I'll keep it brief. There were roughly 200 to 250 hosts in front of Santa Monica City Hall last night protesting that ordinance, so I don't know that it's fair to say that only a few were uncomfortable with it, but we were not contacted by the City of Santa Monica. On your first question, platforms like eBay are not responsible for regulating whether their individual sellers are in compliance with local planning codes around home businesses, and I think that's a very similar.
Do they require a business license before? Anyway?
The city or the jurisdiction may require that a seller have that business license. I do not believe, though I'm happy to verify whether it's the platform's requirement to require.
Does your city require a business license?
Yes, that is one of the regulations we're imposing, is that people will need to pay for and register as a business.
Do you check on that when you, in your platform, whether or not people have?
It is, given the diversity of laws in tens of thousands of cities, we do not verify that or do not have the ability to do so. But we do encourage and educate our hosts about the requirement.
That's not land use. That's a business license. That's different than, business license is different than land use. It's a acknowledgement that you're conducting a business in a community and that you are going to abide by the laws related to conducting business in that community.
Absolutely.
Different than land use.
Thank you for pointing that out, Senator. It's a great point. We do view our obligation as educating our hosts and providing information to them about those rules.
Can I just?
Yeah, just so let Senator Pavley ask the question.
It's sort of a follow-up where Senator Bell was going, but I was going to ask either the mayors of Santa Monica or West Hollywood, since they're sitting up here, whether they had asked for this information from Airbnb, and they were forthright in providing that to you.
Yes, I participated actually in our city's shared economy task force before I was elected to the council and became mayor. And I do know that we did ask for, as part of our process, our vetting process, some of that information from Airbnb, and they declined to provide it. We actually, as a city, had to go onto the platform and identify different addresses that may or may not be participating in that shared economy in order to determine what the impact was. And so, our question was, if they're so willing to participate and comply with local ordinances, and this is information they already have, why were they not willing to share it with our community?
That's part of the frustration here, and that's why we're here as a local government official.
That's right.
It's very hard on the, when you take your oath of office, public health and safety for your community, to make informed decisions if people aren't forthright in providing information, because you can dramatically change the character of a neighborhood without some very thoughtful input and collaboration with the local government.
That's right.
It's a huge potential zoning issue, let alone affordable housing kind of deterrent. So I just wanted to share with you, there is Airbnb is making it more difficult for cities and frustrated, and that's why people are up here today.
That's right.
To share this with us.